Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, great to have you with us. You're watching Your Natural Health right here on News 12 New Jersey. It's a pleasure to have with me Benig Mauger. She's our guest today. She's the author of Reclaiming the Spirituality of Birth. Wow. That's all I have to say. When I looked at this book, I said, I am definitely having this lady on the air with me. Let's go back to the spirituality of childbirth. Talk to me about that.
Well, you know, it's very easy to think of birth as a physical event. And indeed, you know, that's how it has been seen in lots of ways, certainly from a medical perspective. But it is a hugely spiritual experience. It is about soul, it is about psyche, it is about the soul coming into the body, into matter. It's about giving birth to a new soul. So women's dream life, for example, in pregnancy becomes alive. You know, it's as though a gate opens between this world and the spirit worlds when you're pregnant. You become very aware, you become very open to all sorts of things which you weren't before. And so it's an opportunity for growth, both spiritually and physically, which happens. And I think that the reason it has been highlighted in the book is very much because it's an area that has not been looked at. It explains why the birth experience is so profound. It explains why it's formative for the baby, because these are patterns that are formed at that time.
And the baby is impacted throughout the rest of his or her life. How?
All right. It's very subtle. It's not, you know, as simple as saying, right, if you had this kind of birth, that means you're going to be that way. It's more a subtle energy that happens. For example, I'll give you an example. A baby who is carried in a very negative environment or a deprived environment where the mother is continually sad, or maybe she's not in a good relationship, and so so her hormones are a particular way. Her womb is a sad place. The baby feels it. All right. Okay. Then there's the birth experience. If the birth experience is traumatic for the mother, such as sudden emergency or hemorrhage or forceps or whatever, also the baby feels these things.
Of course.
Then there's the mechanical things, such as forceps, which you mentioned before. Now, if you've ever been in a labor room and watched forceps delivery, you would be shocked by the amount of
the traction. And pulling.
All right. That's not to say that sometimes these things are necessary, but what's important. Okay, now I'm going off the point. You asked me how are they impacted.
Right.
It's a very subtle sense, but you could get a sense of a child who feels trapped in the womb, let's say, if there's a particularly emergency cesarean section, or a child pulled out by forceps might have all sorts of, it might have physical things, but also psychologically a sense of needing to be in control.
Right, I guess there's the whole issue has got to be important, and I want to go on to one more thing before we leave here. How can the mother provide a positive influence for the unborn child?
She can do it easily. She needs to, first of all, tune in to the child, to make sure she's surrounded, if she can, by nice things, by music. Listening to music is a perfect way.
Which we know about. Plenty of studies on that.
Massage, you know, eating well, sleeping well, having people around her that love her.
Yeah,
because if a woman feels loved, her baby will just grow.
That's
because
wonderful.
when you know the feeling.
Absolutely.
When you love,
you feel that.
You feel wonderful.
Now, what about the wounds that are created through the birthing process? How can they be healed, physically and emotionally?
Well, the main thing to say about this is that once there is awareness that a wound is there, healing automatically begins to take place. It's not always necessary to go to a therapist, but I find in my practice that people come to me, nothing to do with their birth, but we often go back at some point to that moment. In terms of healing the babies, most people I see are adult babies, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So the babies, it's a question of mothers and parents being aware that there is a wound, that the child needs handling. For example, a cesarean section baby has not been through the birth canal, may need to struggle in a particular way. You know, awareness is all. Awareness, and sometimes massage helps a lot with the physical things of forceps, for example, massage and
just touching in that whole experience. I mean, there's so much data on children that have been held and coddled,
Yes.
as opposed to children who have not been held and
know.
coddled.
Yes.
So to me, this whole thing just makes sense, and I don't know how it couldn't make sense to other people. I find it very important that we explain this to people. And where can people get and what about the dad before we go to your website? What about the dad
It's very
through
important.
this whole
I'm glad
thing?
you mentioned that, because the latest book is about the father. Now, it isn't published yet, so I can't give you that title. But the father is important, very much so, in the life of the child, but also with the mother as a support. She needs him as a support. She needs him to be her fighter, her warrior, all right, to help her. The child needs the father to help him later on separate from the mother, but he needs the father basically as a supporter.
Right.
That's how it
As
works.
the whole protection.
Yes.
Wow, it's fascinating. You have a website that
Yes.
people can go to, www.soul-connections.com, and we'll try to get that up on the screen for you. www.soul, S-O-U-L, connections.com. And the name of the book is Reclaiming the Spirituality of Birth. How beautiful. And I thank you very, very much for spending some time with us right here in New Jersey. And I hope you'll come and visit us one time again when you're in the area.
I will, and thank you so much.
My pleasure. And folks, as always, thank you for watching Your Natural Health. And until next time, I'm Dr. Derek Da Silva, and may you always be blessed with good health.